build a new um, flow just to kind of look at see how data tables work and how to use the selected rows, things like that. Because and you also have to know what null is and what true and false is,
Yeah, that's the
right?
clarity. Well, question for you, right? What was it? You just said something. Change. Um, keep going. Sorry, lost my
Yeah,
train
yeah.
of thought.
There's actually a difference between a checkbox that is checked and a checkbox that is unchecked, where a checkbox that is unchecked may not actually be false. It may actually be null, and but it appears as if it's unchecked or false. You see, so this is a little weird scenario, and we'll get to some of those because you kind of need to know how that works, right? But let me ask, who wants to try to attempt? Hey, Jermaine, how are you?
I'm good at you.
Good, good. So let's attempt to build a data table and then kind of look to see how it works.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Nijal, you want to do it?
So, what are we building? Starting with just a flow?
Yeah. Start with a screen flow.
Oh, uh, so, so-
Okay. Now, if you're going to build a data table, what do you need before the data table? That's the first question.
oh, screen.
No.
Before the data table?
Yes. Before you can use the data table, what do you need?
Data?
Yes.
I
Yes. You need the data first. So how do we get the data?
would have to create, some kind of data or use the existing data we have there for building it around any kind of existing data. So
No,
like,
I'm saying you're going to do a data table.
right.
The question is, okay, what data do we want, right?
Ah, okay, okay.
So this is
So
what I'm saying. So before we you have to look at the logical sequence of what you need first. And this is what I'm saying. Developers going to think very clearly. I know I need a data table. I know this data table is going to be on a screen, but I can't even do a data table without actually having data, right? So we need to get data. If I know I need to get data, what's the first thing I'm going to do? And
uh,
you could chime in also, Jermaine.
yeah, chime in, Jermaine. Go ahead,
Okay, I
chime
would
in with
use the get record element.
Right. We need to get records, right? Because without that, you can't really do a data table. And then the question is, well, what are we going to display in the data table? Let's say we're going to display contacts like we're doing now. But you see in the shell, you know you're going to do a data table. You need data, right?
we need to
And just
get
say
the
get,
data.
yeah. So just say get contacts. Okay. Now continue to fill it out. I'll correct you, or Jermaine will correct you if there's a need to. Just get all of it. So just say none.
Record. And we started by sort contact records. We don't worry about sort right now, right?
Well, you could sort it by first name.
A descending
It's
or
descending.
right.
Ascending,
Ascending.
because
That's
we want
A,
A,
right.
B, C.
Right. A's.
A, B, C, or D. That's ascending.
Right. Right.
Yep. Now tell me about these two choices before you say 'em on
The
the
two.
bottom there.
Okay, so how many records to store, right? Well, we only want to store the first record. We don't want to store.
Why? Don't you want all the records? Don't you?
I want to query. I want to get all the records, but I only want to store the record that is actually in, how should I say that?
Now,
The value that
if
is
you're gonna
selected.
use the condition for none
Jermaine,
to,
what's your comments here?
if you're gonna use the condition for none to get all contact records, then you want
You
to
have to
see
get
all
all
records.
records.
Yes.
Okay.
So think of it this way, Nigel.
Uh,
When you say none get all contact records, that's what's confusing you, I believe, on the filters, right?
I think so, yes.
So so you're not really getting all the records because of that filter. What you're doing is just getting what the choices that's there that you're trying to make now.
Trying to expand my window. I don't know how I lost it just now. Oh, think
Uh,
I know. That's how I lost it. Sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
So so you see the conditions where you say none get all contacts?
Mhm.
That's that actually is that will give you all the contacts if you were to run it. But the problem is that this next choice there will limit what goes into the data table. If you
Okay.
said only the first record, then only that will go into the data table, and the data table won't ever take that because the data table needs what we call a collection of contacts.
Got you.
One is not a collection of contacts.
Right.
Only the first record will just give you one record and not a collection of records. All gives you all of the records, which is a collection of contacts. Right. Does that make any sense at the moment?
Yes, it does actually.
So, to case in point, click on only the first record. Now we're going to prove it to you. Just save this. This is not a collection. All this is a
What do we
one
call
record of the
this?
contact. Yeah. It's
Should I
called
call?
test or stuff like that. Now you could build out your screen and put a data table on it. And you call it, yeah, display contact screen.
Footage, right? We need a display text.
No, data table.
Ah, data. Sorry.
Okay. And just call this the API data table. So you should start it out with data table as the beginning of the API name. And you could say list contacts, but you need an underscore because it's API, including the one
Yeah, I
before the
know. It's
list. Yeah.
heading back that way after.
Okay.
Don't I need it for the data also? I need it everywhere.
No, it's right there. That's good enough.
It
The
wouldn't.
label you could change down. Instead of
Okay.
saying data table, you change it to uh, contacts or list of
Oh,
contacts
list
or
of
whatever.
contacts.
And just click the checkbox.
This one here, use
Yeah.
labels as the table title.
Now, you
No?
see where it says source?
Ah, yeah.
You won't, no, that's the data table. Where is our get? How come it's not there?
Sure.
Jermaine, what do you think?
The get.
What?
Um, Hello?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, we could hear you.
okay. Where is the get? Because um, I guess the reason why it doesn't appear is because he used just that single to get the first record.
Yes. And therefore, it is not a
In a,
collection
right,
because one is not a collection.
right.
Two or more is a collection. You get it?
Yep, yep.
So you can't do this data table. X out delete the data table. You have to delete on the corner right. No, no, not create the screen again.
Okay.
Okay, and again, um, this is the contact display contact screen. Okay, now just save this. So if you can't put that get contacts into a data table because it's not actually a collection of contacts, it's only one contact. What can you use it for? Go back to your screen.
Oh, back to the screen itself,
Hmm. So you have that get.
right?
How can you use it?
I can, um, I can use it if I'm on maybe not in the data table, but in other display
Hmm.
elements.
Yes, because now it's not a collection. It is
Right.
just a variable.
So if I said, even if I was to use currency, I could get it that way.
Yeah. But
No,
there's no
like you would no,
currency in
you
it.
would use like
We
text
let's
first
say
Right.
you.
name. You would use like text
Right,
first
like
name
text or
last
something.
Mhm.
a text box, right?
Well, no, display. He's right, display. Okay. So first
Right.
use the API name and then we'll do it. All right. So the API name is going to be something like display first contact because you only said give me the first contact. That's all you said. So how do you display the name of the first contact? You have parentheses in the API name.
Uh, oh, shucks, I saw it there.
Okay.
So, so no, this is not what we would want.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, you're right. So
I'm right here.
yeah, it's in there. Now
So,
you see the get contacts now.
right.
Why are you seeing it now? Because look what it says, record single variable. Because you said only give me the first one. Now it's a single variable, not a collection of contacts. You get it?
Right. Right.
The data table works with a collection of contacts, right? While what you did, your get, you said only get me one record, and that's not a collection. That's a single variable. So now click in contacts from get contacts, right? And you can put your first name. Okay. And then you can say done, save it, and debug. What do you expect to get here?
Contact first name
Of what? Of whom?
of the, oh, well, I guess of the first contact in the list or something.
Whatever that first contact would be. We don't
Right.
know. It could be very random.
Okay.
But you did a sort though.
And we got Bob.
Bob. So you
Okay.
get Bob's record because Bob might be the first one, right? And it's only one. You can't do the second contact because it's not a list.
Right, I guess.
See? Okay. Let's X this out. Now, so let's change that. Instead of saying get contact, just
Oh,
call it get first contact. No, 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 the get.
the
Go
get. Okay, go back. So the
Because
get,
that
yeah.
get isn't really get contacts. It's really get first contact. And you can get rid of the S from the contacts. Okay. And in the description, just write, this is not a collection of contacts. This is just a contact. That's get your mind to understand how this works. Okay. Now save it. All right. Now we know how this works, right?
The APIs are
Now
issued.
I want you to do this. No,
Right.
no, it works.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep this. Now I want you to save this as a different flow. Not a new version, but a completely different one. Yeah. So do save, right? Save as new flow and make this whatever version two. Test contact flow version two or number two or whatever you want to call it. Okay. Save it. All right. Now go to the display contacts screen. Okay. Delete that right, that display text. Just delete it. Save it. Done. Save it. Okay. Go back to get first contacts. Right? Now change it to, instead of get first contacts, change the name to get contacts.
The label and the API
Yes.
contacts with a S.
Yes. Or get list of contacts, whatever you want to call it. Whatever works for you.
This is fine.
Okay. Then we change the description. This is a collection of contacts. Okay. Now notice you're not going to change the filter. Filter stays the same. But what you're going to do is where it says how many records to store, right? Then you're going to click change it from only the first to all records. You see that? This is now not a variable, a single variable. This is now a collection of contacts. Now do a save. Okay. Now go into your display contacts. Now try to do the same thing you were trying before. Go to display text. No, no, not the
Or
date
display
table.
text.
Yeah. I want you to see if you could do it. Okay.
Instead of get record here.
Okay, click on that.
But
But
uh,
how do you choose first name?
uh,
It doesn't make any sense, does it?
yeah, it just gets get contacts.
And see what this do. Say hit done. Oh, you need an API name.
Okay.
Say display contacts or whatever. You need an underscore.
Wait.
Okay. Save it. Let's debug this. See what this does.
Wow.
A little weird, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
basically giving you
all
the
there.
IDs
IDs, right?
because it's a list, you see?
Right. Mhm.
But you see how you just change one thing on that get records, and it goes from a single variable where you could reference the first name to all of
Right.
a sudden you
Your
do
IDs.
right now you get everything, but it could only give you the IDs in this display text, right? So let's X this out. We don't need it anymore, right? Now let's get rid of that display text and put it in the data table, which does help you display it better. Okay, now you could drag that in. Okay. Now because that's now a collection, data tables only work with collections. Yeah. Right. And don't forget to click on use the label, the checkbox. Now, when you click on the source collection, you see it there.
Yes.
Now you can click on it because data tables will only work with collections. Get it? Now you need to set up the columns. And first of all, configure rows, single, right? Scroll it down.
Check a column.
Yeah, configure column.
Add a column.
Right. So we want first name, last name. It's good. Now add another column, last name. Okay, done, done. And go all the way to the bottom, done. Save, debug. Okay, much better, right?
Mhm.
So because this works with a collection, but if you set it to be only one record, then that's not a collection and won't you can't even select it, right? But where you could use a single record is in the display text, right? So that's sort of the first thing is the lesson is that what is a collection, what is a single variable, right? Collection is a whole bunch of records, whatever those records are. A single variable is only one record, right? And the two are different. And the data table cannot work with a single record, right? It has to work with a collection of records, right? Now let's X this out. Okay. Now go back to your screen there, okay? And put a checkbox on the bottom. Okay. Let's just call this checkbox um, row data table row checked. Okay. Now, just where's the default value, right? Just say true. Okay. Say done and save. So what's going to happen when you hit the bug? Don't do it, but what do you think? What will happen to that checkbox?
I was talking on mute. It should be checked in the display screen.
Yes. Do you agree with that, Jermaine?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the reason why?
My default value is true.
Yes. Okay. Let's prove that. Hit debug. Yeah. So no matter what, it's going to click yes, some row was checked. All right. X this out. Now go back to the screen. Now click on that data table checkbox, the checkbox. Go to the uh, set component visibility. Okay. Instead of always, do conditions are met, right? And resource, make it the data table selected value. Yep. Click on that. First selected row. Okay. And then type ID. Okay. Now, type, uh, set the operator to not equal to. Does not equal. And the value, set it to null or empty screen. You know what? Make it, just keep it blank. Just get rid of that. Keep it blank. Okay, say done. Right. Let's see. Let's see if that took though. Click on data table row checked again. I want to see if it took that visibility. No, click on new condition. Yeah, let's do that again. Okay, data table. First selected row is right there. You can click on it and just type in ID, right? And say does not equal and leave it like that. No, leave it like that. Oh, let's see if it took again. Okay, yes, try it again. First selected row, ID. Okay, does not equal to, and then hit done. Okay. Now just click on done, save. Now let's run, do a debug again. Let's see what happens. Okay, you see it's not there? Click on one of those checkboxes. How did this happen?
Will,
Explain this.
that's what I was going to ask you. So, okay, in this data table here, we have a condition that says we're going to display this box based on data table list contacts first selected row ID does not equal to null. So that means it's displayed when one of those contacts is selected. But to this, here's my question again. Under what condition are we using? Why do we use is null under this condition? I need to understand. I'm
Yeah,
not understanding that for nothing.
right. So first I wanted to show you this,
Mhm.
right? Now, add another add another checkbox. A little bit higher there. Okay. This one, right? Uh, do data table row checked again, right? As the label. No, actually do nothing checked in data table. Just say that. Nothing has checked. Nothing is checked. Okay, and get rid of the right in data table. default value, make it true, meaning that it should be checked. Stop here, just say done. What will happen if you, yeah, say done. What would happen if you say, well, save it first, but don't do debug? What will happen when you say debug?
That shouldn't be checked. Nothing should be checked.
Okay. Jermaine, what do you think?
Just double check something.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Double click, click
Mm-hmm.
on that again. Um, see, your default value is showing true.
True.
So therefore, that checkbox will show it like will have a checkbox. It will have a check next to it.
So tell me what the screen should look like.
Well, because he didn't set the visibility, it's going to just show that check saying that that second checkbox will show up, basically with a check next to it, or check inside that
Okay,
box.
no matter what, right?
Right.
No matter what you're saying,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What do you think, Nigel? Is that true? No, I'm saying Nichelle.
Second checkbox is true.
So you're saying that will be checked. You'll see it and it will be checked. What about the first one?
Uh, no, you didn't see the first one.
The first
Why?
one, right.
The
You won't.
condition is set that
Sorry.
the
Go
only time
ahead.
you see the first one is if a row is selected.
No, that's not what your visibility rule says. What does your visibility rule says? Without going into it,
Yeah,
what does it
remember,
say?
it says that uh, it says the contact's first row ID is null true.
Right. What
Mhm.
does that mean? See, now we're starting to get into why we're using null.
Well,
What
it
does it
means that
mean? Yeah.
is null true means that that field itself, that checkbox, is unchecked.
Well, first selected row,
Well, right, the
right?
first selected row is right. It means that a first selected row has to be unchecked for it to be true.
Well, that means there's nothing checked because if there's no first selected row checked, then nothing is checked, right?
Right, right.
And if nothing is checked, then what is the meaning of the first selected row? What value does the first selected row have if nothing is checked?
Uh, it has a blank value,
Not a blank.
A null.
What does it have?
a null value.
Null value. You get it?
Hmm.
Do you get it now?
Not really, to be honest.
If it's if there's no
I
first select,
understand that. Now I understand that.
yeah.
But again, to my question as a dummy,
Mhm.
why can't it just be a blank, like it's not equal to, right? But we're sticking with null. So why are we using null as the operator?
Because you cannot use true because true doesn't work with first selected row, right? First selected row is either it's null or it's not null.
Here's the thing though. Let's say forget first selected row. Let's
Hmm.
use it in a different context. When is null not going to work or should work? When is null, in under, what are we calling the first selected row in order to use null? What kind of data are we calling? Is there a name for that? Is there a rationale as to, under this circumstance, we must use null, although it's a checkbox because we're looking for X. So I'm not
No,
sure. You see what I'm
no,
saying?
no, no. You're okay.
I'm
Debug
confusing
this.
it.
Well, let's debug the screen first, and then we'll try to
Mhm.
get you to understand this slightly better. Okay. So yes, you see that's nothing is checked in the
Mhm.
data table.
Mhm.
That's not really true, right? Because yeah, nothing is checked in the data table. But now check one of the Check one of them. Notice it says data table row is checked, but the nothing is checked is also there.
Mhm.
What's the problem here?
We didn't set a visibility condition for that.
Right. So now let's set up a visibility condition for the nothing is checked in the data table.
Mhm.
And what is that rule? What condition should nothing is checked in the data table work?
Hmm. I'm afraid to say it's null again.
What do you think, Jermaine?
Okay. Let me see. I would have to say, hold on. Nothing is checked in the data table because this, but in this case, that would be false because something is checked. Can you hear me?
Now, don't think of something is checked. Think of,
Oh,
yes, can you hear me? Can you
yeah,
hear
because I
us?
keep getting a message saying my internet
N
connection is slow.
Nigel, can you hear me?
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay. All right. Now, again, you're using the wrong logic. Your mind has to switch from something is checked. That's not what we're doing. That's not part of your visibility rule. What is it that's checked?
The
Come on.
first selected row.
First row.
First selected row.
First selected row.
So stop saying something is checked.
Okay.
That's you have to get that out of your mind and say
Hmm.
first selected row.
Hmm.
You get it?
Hmm.
Because you're confusing yourself when you don't say what exactly the visibility rule was. Now, is the first selected row checked?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Therefore, the nothing is checked in data table has to have what would be the visibility rule for that one? When should it be visible?
When first selected row equals true.
You
Or is not null.
right is not no. Well, nothing is checked. No, no, no. Okay, uncheck the the Jeffrey, right? Uncheck. Okay. Now, what is the value of first selected row here?
The value of it.
Yes,
Uh, it's a null value.
null value.
Mhm.
That's why nothing is checked pops up because it's not equal, right? Nothing is checked, right? Well, actually, forget about nothing is checked because the reality is we didn't put a visibility to it, right? But we want this to work here. Nothing is checked in data table. We want that to appear at this time, right? And at this time, what is first selected row equal to?
No.
Null, because nothing is checked. It's null, right? Nigel, does that make sense to you?
Yes. No, that makes sense.
So nothing is checked should only appear if first selected row equals null. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And if you check something, check anything, it doesn't matter. What is first selected row?
Uh, true.
It's not true. It's Jeffrey,
Right.
right? It's
Right.
Jeffrey, and Jeffrey has an ID.
Mhm.
So we tested the ID, and the ID is not null. You get it?
Say that over again, please, about the ID.
Okay, remember we're using first selected row
Right.
dot ID. Do you remember the visibility rule we
Yes,
put in?
yes, 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 yes.
And we said if the ID is not null of the first selected row, then put data table row checked. Remember we said that?
Yes.
That's why that data table row checked appears.
Mm.
Because now you checked Jeffrey, and Jeffrey has an ID. Therefore, the first selected row ID has something in it. It's not null. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Okay, now let's fix that nothing is checked in the data table, but that will should only appear when
When
the,
well, when first selected row is blank, is null.
not the first selected row only, the first
No,
selected row dot
is
ID
is
where
not
the
null.
will the ID no not null is null because nothing is selected. It's null.
You said when it should just when it should appear. Oh, sorry. I was
Right,
thinking.
when it should appear.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So let's try to do that one. X this out and go back to the screen. Yep. Okay, now click on that, add the visibility rule, go back to the data table, right? First selected row, go to the ID again, and this time we're going to say equals, and you could leave it blank because that is null. Or you could say is null true. So either one works. Say done, but you see it says equals null, and let's save this. Now let's see if this works, right? Nothing is selected, right? Select something. Now something is. Now unselected. Now it's not selected. You see how this works?
You see it.
Question is, seeing it does not necessarily mean understanding it.
Right, true that, true that. Well,
But I'm
let me.
just trying to break it down
Mhm,
so you could get an understanding. The trick here is to first understand we're talking about something called first selected row.
mhm.
So is
And it could
null like equal to like blank?
it is blank,
It is
but
blank. So okay.
it's not false. You see, so that's the other thing you have to understand. Null is not false. Even though the checkbox might be unchecked, it could be any of two values. It could be either true or false, or it could be null even, So that's another value that a checkbox can be, right? So so this is the first thing I want you to try to get your head around, right? Is how the data table uses null values, right? And particularly this thing, what we call first selected row. And any row can be first selected. Just pick a different row and select it. See how we changed it? Yeah. And if you uncheck it, that's fine. You check any other row, it doesn't matter because it's the first selected row, right? Makes sense?
Yep.
That's how our little widget there is kind of working. It makes things visible and invisible depending on if the first selected row is null or not null, right? Kind of neat, right? Now, how difficult is that logic to absorb?
I have a
Is
better
it
That,
understanding of it now.
yeah, me too. I'm still, I still have to keep wrapping my, but I get it, right?
Right, the concept of it, right.
hmm
I'm really trying to understand. Okay, I'm looking at an ID, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm not looking, let's say I'm not looking at an ID and I'm looking at a text value. Is there a difference?
Yes, there's a difference. Now
Is it?
let's get to that. All right, let's X this out. Go back to um your window, yeah, your screen. Let's put a new checkbox, but on top. Mhm. Right there. Okay. And just say it's a nice day. Display it's a nice day. Well, yeah, display it's a nice day. Actually, you don't need display for the label. You could take that out. Okay. And tab it out. And you could put display in front of there. Okay, no, don't do anything. Just say done. Save. What do you think is the value of that checkbox when we say debug?
Heard you, man.
The value of that
Jermaine?
checkbox is going to be true, or in this case, um, I would say not null.
And where are you coming up with that? I'm just curious what your thought pattern is there.
Okay. Go back into that screen real quick. Click on that. Okay. See, there's no default value, and plus, it's going to just show it's a nice day, you know, with the little checkbox, but there won't be no check in it.
I'm
Bec
asking you, what is the value?
the value. I'm going to say, ouch. Hmm.
First of all, what are the values of a checkbox?
Null, not for true or false,
True or false,
or null.
or null? There's three possible values.
Three possible values. Okay.
And I'm saying what will be the value when you hit debug? There's three. Which
I'm going
one
to
of
say
those three?
I'm going to say true.
You're gonna say true.
I'm going to say
And
Yes.
Michelle,
false.
you're gonna say false?
Mhm.
Okay, hit debug. Okay, you see it's a nice day on top?
Yep.
What value is it?
The blank value. It's
Well,
a null value. That's what I meant by false.
well, hold on. We don't know we know it's not true. Because if it's true, what would happen?
We have a check mark.
You
Yeah.
have a
So
check mark.
now,
Yeah. Okay.
so let me ask, um, Jermaine, why did you think it was going to be true?
No, because I got mixed up real quick. I thought it would just show that we're
Because it's a
having.
nice day. It really is, right?
Yeah,
And in
but
your
it's not
mind,
really.
you think that this checkbox, no, it's a nice day.
Right, I forgot that. No, it won't. There won't be a check next to it. So okay, so yeah, it really can't be true. Okay,
Oh, okay. Now I remember what you said, Michelle.
you
You said
go.
it was false, right? But we don't really know if it's false or if it's null because it could be either one. Because either one will not be true and therefore not checked. You see? How do we test to see if this is null or false?
So is this one of those another thing where Salesforce tricks us?
It's not a trick. This has been around for since programming was invented for
Okay,
50, 60 years.
okay,
This is just the way it works.
okay.
How do we check if it's null or false?
Yes.
Oh, if we're checking if it's null, we would need a record ID.
No, no, no. I'm saying so,
Well, I guess you could
check.
check one of those first selected rows and see. No,
No,
that
this is
won't
not a
work.
first selected row anymore.
No,
This
just
is this is just
Yeah,
checkbox.
just
then
checkbox.
you'd have to give a condition for that. You have to create a visibility rule to check if it's true or
No,
false.
no, that's for the checkbox itself, but we want to see if it's going to be false, null, or even true, right?
But in
How
this
do we
case, it
do
can't be
that?
true. But okay, I guess.
Right, I know. Well, it could be if you checked it. You see how the checkboxes down there work?
Yes.
Can you think of doing the same thing, but instead of the data table, you do it for the checkbox?
So go
Lost.
back to
What
the
what did we
screen.
do? Yeah, let's
Go back.
let's see if you can figure this out.
So
So
do the same
base,
thing we do for these two here without using the data table.
right, instead of using the data table, using the checkbox now.
So
Use
go
these
no,
as
go to
well.
the top
Okay.
But
checkbox.
not doing
Hmm.
Yeah. So click on that, and then now we're going to
Yeah.
go to.
no, 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 no. Did you go to the data table and do visibility? No, you didn't do that.
Now I didn't tell them to go to the visibility.
What, okay, what are you doing?
I said go to the top where the checkbox is at. So click on that, and then we're going to go to default value.
No,
No? Okay.
leave that alone.
Leave
I
that
know.
alone.
I said variable input. No.
No, no. Use a display text.
Oh.
No, no, go
So
display text on the left.
no, wait. How did we get to that determination, Lou? That's the way you said. How do we figure out? How do we figure out if this is true, false, or not?
Right.
Then you said get a display text.
Yes.
Is that the logic behind it? That was the answer?
Well, what can the display text do for you?
Uh, Tell me that it's a nice day.
It could tell you the value of it's a nice day
Hmm.
because it's a display text.
You can tell me the value.
Okay. Display the value of the checkbox. How do you do that? No, no, you have to click inside insert a resource, find your checkbox. It's a nice day. That's it. Done. Okay. Save. Debug. What's the value?
False.
Okay. Click on it.
On the checkbox?
Yeah. What's the value?
True.
Uncheck it. Apple. See? It tells you it's true or false. So it's not null in the beginning, but it's true or false. Right? Now, X this out for a moment, and let's go back to the screen. Right? Let's go in there and go to it's a nice day checkbox. And in the default value, type null. Okay, type blank is blank or blank. Let's see if they do that. No, you can't. Okay. So maybe they changed the way that the checkbox work. It
Now you
looks
could
like the
type false
checkbox
or true.
will be either
You could type
right, you could
false or
type
true.
false or true, but we don't want to do that now, right? As the default value, right? We could just type false, but it doesn't matter. It looks like it's false in the beginning, you know. So just let's absorb this for a moment. Do you see the display text that we did that's right above the checkbox? How does that work? Click on the display. It's a nice day. How is this working?
Oh, it's pulling a resource. If you go into resources, then you
Well, no, it's very simple. It just puts the value of it's a nice day
check.
checkbox in the display text.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all it does. There's nothing to overthink here. And remember what I asked you in the beginning. How do you check the value of it's a nice day? That's how you check it, you see?
Right. Okay.
Now, suppose if I said to you, let's expand this. First of all, I want to make sure you guys understand this. Hit cancel, right? Do debug again. Okay. Why does it say false
Because it's not
at the
checked.
top? Right. Because, well, don't say that. Say that it's a nice day checkbox is false.
Okay. It's nice
That's
they
why it
checked.
displays false.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if he checks it. Why does it say true?
Because it's a nice day checkbox is checked, so that makes it true.
Yes, you see, that's the value of the checkbox, right? Because we use the display text to show us what the value of the checkbox is. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Nijal, do you understand what that how that works?
Yes.
Okay. Now we could go on to a little bit more complexity so you could see. Now remember in the beginning I asked you before I told you to use the display text, how to find the value of that checkbox. And it's pretty simple. You just use the display text to show us it. You see? And that's making sense to you now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, instead of saying true, I want you to say, yes, it's a nice day. And when it's false, I want you to say, ooh, it's a terrible day. How do we do that? No, you won't use the visibility.
Yeah, I'm confused then, man.
Okay, what does that display it's a nice day do?
It displays it's a nice day.
No, it displays true or false from the checkbox below it.
Okay, what does it do? Displays true or false.
In other
Okay.
words, you see the checkbox below it?
Mhm.
It's going to tell you if it's true or false. That's all. Because that's what's inside the box there. It's display, it's a nice day checkbox. What is the value? That's what it's doing. Is that making sense? Why it's true or false?
Yes, I understand why it's true.
Okay. And Jermaine, you understand?
Yes, I understand why it's true or false.
Okay. Now, what am I asking you? I'm saying if
If
it's
the
true,
if
I
it's
want you to
true,
say,
it's a
great,
nice
it's a nice day.
day.
I want you to say, great. How do we do that?
I need a walkthrough on this one here. Screen component, if it's true.
No, nope. You won't even be here. X this out. Remember what I'm saying to you, right? If it's true that it's a nice day, if it's true that it's a nice day is checked, right? If it's a nice day checkbox is checked. Let's write this down in the notepad for
Oh,
a second.
I know, I know,
Remember
I
what,
know. You got to use a certain element.
okay? Well, no,
No?
not an element.
Mm, I would have thought to use an
You
element.
probably just type notepad. Okay. Now, this is the way you need to think. If a checkbox called It's a Nice Day is true, which means checked, right? Display, that's great. That's great. How do we do that?
A formula like
Yes.
advanced?
Very good. It's a formula. Let's create a formula. We have to be out of here to create the formula.
Oh,
We cannot create the formula in here.
so you're
So
doing
now,
it in the get record?
No, you
no,
got to go to resources. All the
Oh,
way to
it's
the
one of
right.
it's one of these.
Yeah. Mm,
It's a variable kind of resource
it's a
resources.
formulas.
formula. Okay. Now, just call this one No, just call this one. Uh, respond to "It's a nice day" checkbox. It won't take a. It won't take a. You could just say underscore S. Okay, Jermaine, you want to? Yeah, this is a text. It has to return a text because we're going to use that display checkbox. How do you write it, Jermaine?
Okay. You're gonna say if go back to the notepad real quick. If a checkbox
Well,
called it's a night
if the
if the
checkbox.
checkbox. So now go back to the if statement. So now you got to go into resource. Now we got to find that checkbox.
It's in the screen. hmm What's the checkbox called?
It's a nice day. So if that equals
Well,
to, oh, hold on, go back to your notepad. Called it's a nice day is true. Display that it's great. That's great. Okay. Go back to your formula. Um, if display, it's a nice day. Um, let me see. Let me see all functions.
we
Hello?
want you to click on insert a function.
Insert a function.
The Nigel?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, he wants you to click.
insert a function, which is next to that.
What do you
Go
mean? Okay, oh, you
go
want
right
another
there.
function next
Yeah,
to out here?
insert. Yeah,
Oh,
click
Insert a
there.
function. You
No,
see,
next to it.
no, no, yeah, to the right of that.
oh, sorry. What are we
Mm,
inserting?
No, it's not gonna be that. Go to the one that's left of it. Hold on, I can't read this document.
Jermaine, what are you trying to do? Let me just
Say
make sure I understand what
equals
you're trying
like.
to do.
Hold on.
No, no need to
No,
say
it
equals true
equals true.
because display it's a nice text will either equal true or false. It doesn't
False.
matter. It already
Okay.
equals true or false.
Okay. If display it's a nice day,
How does the if work?
it's a conditional. So hold on. Oh my gosh. I forgot. Hold on, because I know it's got plus, greater than, or less than, equal to. You know what? Never mind. Hold on. I'm getting. I forgot how that function works.
Okay. Nigel, have you used your functions? Do you know how
No,
stuff like this works?
not like this. No,
Okay.
not like this.
Erase all of that at the moment. Okay. Now, you remember where you clicked insert a function?
Hmm.
No, yeah. Type if. Okay, so click on that if for that down there. Yeah. Okay. So it says logical condition, logical test. You see it says logical test?
Yeah.
That logical test means whatever you have, it must be something that evaluates the true or false, right? So just highlight logical test and only logical test. You can't do anything else. Right. Just highlight it, including the L. Oh, too
Oh,
much.
yeah.
Too much. Just up the test. Right there. Insert the display. See, insert a resource and put the checkbox there. So click on that, and it's a nice day. Okay. Okay. So this goes if it's display it's a nice day. Display it's a nice day is either true or false. We know that, right? Jermaine, do you remember?
Yes.
It's either true or false,
So okay.
right? And
So
Nigel,
sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm just making sure. Nigel, you remember that the value of display it's a nice day is going to be either true or false. We know
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And you see what it's saying, value if true.
Then
You
we're
see
gonna say
value if true?
great. It, it's a nice day.
Yes. So replace value if true. See what it says there in the shell? Value if true.
Yeah.
Replace
Replace that.
that with great. It's a nice day.
Value is true. You're going to put integrate in between the parentheses?
No,
I
No,
mean, the
you
three
got to
comma.
quotes?
replace. You got to replace it like you did with the logical test. You got to highlight the value is true, if true, and then you got to say great. It's a nice day.
And put quotes around that.
Single quotes, right?
Single, double quotes. Make it double.
Why not single?
Or you could put single, but in
Okay.
these cases, it's best to put double. Okay. Now at the end, if it's false, what are we going to put? We're going to say,
No, it's not a great day.
yeah, no, it's not a great day. And that needs to go into quotes as well. Okay. Now do a check syntax, see if this is correct. Say it's valid. First of all, do we understand the if function?
Yes, yes, I got it now.
We want to delete?
No, no, I'm just making sure you understand it before we say done.
Yeah, if display is nice, it's a nice day. And that we had it there. If it's true, you're gonna go great. It's a nice day. Else, no, it is not a great day.
Okay.
Or wait, done.
Yeah, save it. Okay, now go back to your screen. Go back to the display on the top. The right there. Yeah. Okay. You see how this gives you true or false?
Yeah.
But that's just putting into the display text the value of the checkbox. But I'm saying don't put the value of the checkbox, right? Put the formula.
So we put the formula here too.
Yes. So just insert no, keep that. Just go at the end of that and press enter all the way to the end. Enter. Okay, now insert, put formula. No, no, no. Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. You call it respond. Okay. Done. Save. Debug. You see what it's saying on top? It's false. No, it's not a nice day. You see? Click the check bar. It's a nice day. So you could click the checkbox. It's a nice day.
This this one here, right?
Yeah. See what it says now?
Ah, yeah,
Uncheck it. Check it.
yeah. Got you, got
Okay. You guys need to wrap your head around
you.
this.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Once you can get a better understanding of this, it's a simple um, way of making things work and how they interact and stuff like that, right? But it teaches you how a checkbox works. It's a true or false situation, and we made it work with a display text. And the bottom one works with the data table, which is using null and not null, right? So one uses true and false, the other one uses null and not null, right? And if you could wrap your head around it, and you may need to spend some time, right? You just have to know that in the data table, when nothing is checked, the first selected row is null because it's neither true or false, it's just null, right? But when you check something, then the ID actually appears somewhere and it actually is not null. So for the data table, it's null or not null, but a checkbox is true or false, right? I know it's still fuzzy, right?
A little fussy, but I get what you're saying, though.
Yeah, and the only way you're going to get stuff like that is to kind of let it sink in, is to practice it more and more, right? In other ways, not just in these ways, right? And then you combine it with things like we did. In the case that we did it with your with the example for homework, you actually needed to combine both a true or false for a checkbox and a null or not null for the data table all at the same time, right? Here we separated it. You did you true or false for the checkbox on the top, and the data table was null or not null, and they're two separate things, you know? Now, if you really wanted to get fancy, you could go, hey, if it's a nice day and nothing is checked, I'd like to display, that's not too bad. 2 out of 3 isn't bad, or something like that. Where you're combining them both. But you see, it's a matter of thinking about how can I make this all work? What can I do to take these two different things and make it work? Because they are two different things. The checkbox on the top is different than the data table. Is It's different from the checkbox on the bottom, you know. And you can make it all work. And that's the trick behind these flows. These flows make a lot of things work together. And I like to call it something like we wire up the whole thing in different ways, right? They all kind of get wired together by you making it work like the way we're doing now. Now, I don't think we should go beyond this example until you can absorb the example, right?
I
Because
agree.
any anything more than these two small examples will just be overwhelming, I think. right?
Yep.
So now just absorb it, and then we'll try to do other things that are like this, not too complex, right? And then then once you think you have it, then we'll go through some more examples to make sure that you have it, right? And then from there, we could go on to the little bit more complex scenario that happened just recently with the homework. Mhm.
Yep. Cool.
All right. I know it's almost seems like fuzzy, right? But let's see about trying to absorb it, and then I'll try to get you around it. Maybe we'll do other examples, right? Hmm.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So uh you have your tests, and just see how you get around it and absorb it. All right, guys?
All right,
Yep.
bud. Thank you very much.
All right. Sounds good.